No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just gonna keep you right where you at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Break It Down with Brian H. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. I'm back. Yeah, a couple weeks, did a couple of these shows on the road. One came to you from Atlanta. Another came back home. But, I didn't get in the studio. Set it up, I should say. Then went to Philadelphia, did another show. But I'm back home for a while, folks. Episode number 95. But before we get started, you know where to find me. And in case you don't, just look on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. Follow the podcast, The Wrestling Show, the brand at Wrestling Wrealm on Twitter, on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you are liking the Facebook fan page. And then go on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, which is my favorite. Make sure you go there and subscribe to the show. Give me 5 stars. That's all I want for Christmas. 5 stars. Tell your friends about it. Write a review. Let the people know. Folks, we are just days away from the Survivor Series. And boy, oh boy, we are in the midst of an invasion, can I say? You look at what's going on, right? And you see everything that's just happening. So we start off on, we're going to start right with NXT. Start off right where the show ended. It's before I came here. We had Seth Rollins show up. Now, earlier in the night, they started off with Becky Lynch, But let's get right to it. I'll get to that part later. We started off with, we ended with the main event being Adam Cole versus Donovan Dijakovic. Adam Cole, the winner, would secure the advantage at War Games. And in this case, it was Adam Cole getting the briefcase, securing the bag for his team. But then all of a sudden, a number of invasions happened. You saw Undisputed Era Gary come out. Suddenly, the Smackdown roster, who had invaded earlier, they were there. Then you had some members from the Raw roster. Of course, a brawl takes place. But then here comes Seth Rollins. And everybody's like, wow. We already had Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee. But when Rollins showed up, for what it is, let's call it for what it is, the face of Raw, right? Now, I've been vocal. I'm not the biggest Seth Rollins as a babyface fan. But, he is the face of the brand, And you saw the NXT fans. This is the company where Seth Rollins is the brand that he's the first ever world champion of. But they was chanting that he's not cool. They didn't want to see Seth Rollins. And then all of a sudden, here comes Tommaso Ciampa. And, it was just what a way to end the show, right? Just, if you're not excited for a Survivor Series, then I don't know what's going to get you there. I will have a Survivor Series preview coming up. I guarantee you, because that's a heavy card. I got to go through that separately. But then, let's go back to Monday Night Raw, right? Monday Night Raw, we saw former NXT champion Kevin Owens out there. And him and Drew McIntyre had a match, which Owens was victorious. But then comes Triple H, the man who was always in Owens' corner. Responsible, single-handedly made him the second ever Universal Champion. Do you not remember? Well, he came out there and said some interesting things. He said that he don't think that he understands nobody else appreciate him. Owens was on Raw and he was on SmackDown. He got fired from SmackDown. He's told straight, nobody appreciates you. Come on back to NXT. Well, before Owens could give an answer, all of a sudden, Undisputed Era attack. And it was just another melee just at the end of Monday Night Raw. Just everybody all over the place. But here's the thing. The Undisputed Era did beat up on Kevin Owens, but it didn't last that long. And I gotta give a shout out to my boy Cornette. He brought up a good point, because we was talking on Facebook and I said it. And he also noticed it. Kevin Owens, I don't have this one. Kevin Owens kind of got out of there. And we all know he could be a snake. Do we not remember what happened earlier this year when he was the honorary member of the New Day while Big E was out, and then all of a sudden he turned on them, which led us to Kevin Owens versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship? Now here's the thing. I don't want to see Kevin Owens become this generation's Big Show, where he's always doing this heel turn, his face turn, this heel turn, his face turn, this heel turn, his face turn. But I think now would be the perfect time for him to screw the Raw brand and assist NXT and go make his way back to that brand. He's one of the best NXT champions ever. Top 5 easily. And I want to know, who do you guys think? I'm actually working on, a quick announcement, not the big one for the 100th edition, but one of the things I'm going to be working on for the 100th edition is a look back at the decade. What was the superlatives? The wrestler of the decade. The match of the decade. I got to do an NXT wrestler of the decade. I mean, So, I'm wondering, could Owens go back to NXT? Personally, I think it happens. Early on Raw, Seth Rollins took on Andrade. The winner would become the team captain for Raw. Now, the Lucha House Party came out there and beat up Rollins, which gave him the win. But I thought this was interesting because then we saw another invasion. So, these invasions are just all over the place. I love it. They're coming. Everybody must keep their head on a swivel. Bottom line, you got to keep your head on a swivel. And then let's go to the women. Now, here's the thing. I've said this time and time again that when it came to the NXT Women's Championship, I didn't think that Becky Lynch belonged in a match. When it came to the Women's Championship, the Champions match, I thought that should have been a one-on-one match between Bayley and Shayna Baszler. And I was listening to Corey Graves' podcast, and he even said it. Felt like Becky Lynch was just kind of lost in the shuffle. And everybody says she's the hottest thing in the WWE. I don't think so anymore. I thought that last year around this time. I thought that in the beginning of the year. Right now, I think her fire is starting to burn out. Maybe Seth's burning it down. But I will say that, on NXT, she made her presence known. Showing up, coming out there, showing up, doing her thing. And her and Rhea Ripley had a match. Phenomenal match. Definitely check it out. You got these two women going back and forth. It was incredible. But then all of a sudden, Team Baszler came out there and got in the mix. And, and they started beating up on both of the women. So, as I said, these invasions are just going wild. Even on Monday Night Raw, because Becky even brought up a point that for some reason her and Charlotte have been put together, which I do think they are the next tag team champions. But they took on the Iconics, which they were victorious. But afterwards, the NXT ladies came in and invaded them. So then you also had a match earlier, on NXT, where it was Kaylee Ray and I want to say it was Dakota Kai. And then everybody came out there. Smackdown, Raw, all the women came out there. So as they get ready, Smackdown this Friday night is going to be off the chains because they are going to do some crazy stuff. I guarantee it. Make sure you check that out. So like I said, these invasions, they're just like crazy all over the place. I love it. But let's get into WWE Backstage, folks. Now, it's finally happened. It's official. It's in the bag. We got the first episode out. CM Punk is here. He came out there. He had an interesting interview, a one-on-one interview. Before he got into the show, he got to talking about the product and doing the segments. He had a show. He had an interview with Renee Young. And he brought the name Seth Rollins came up. And he said, look, take some advice. Please, just stop tweeting. Just stop tweeting. And of course, Rollins quote tweeted, and it's on your screen. Capital letters, hell of a response. Eye roll emoji, period, coward. So I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, Rollins really wants this match. And I said this earlier, the last episode, that if you want Seth Rollins in the main event of WrestleMania, the only way it would make sense, the only way it would be believable, the only suitable opponent would be CM Punk. Why? Because they've given us matches with him with just about everybody. And the fire is burning. And Seth is talking about burning it down, but he's burning his credibility down. He's burning his fans away. And Punk, he's doing these jabs, and it's reminding me of John Cena and The Rock. When John Cena just wanted The Rock to just come back. Please, just come back. He started saying stuff here and there, and he finally got that match. But then in 2013, at WrestleMania 29, he finally got that respect, right? So that's what this reminds me of as I sit back and watch Punk, Rollins. It is what it is. This is what Rollins wants. He wants CM Punk. He wants that match because he knows that is a match that will make him relevant. But I'm going to go ahead and take my first break. I got a word coming up from the realness.
I don't know exactly what the heck is. What do you mean? What the heck is this? What does it look like? Bro, you said
what is this?
You said you wanted something big and pizzazz and stuff.
No, not this. This ain't it.
No, bro, trust me.
No,
bro, trust me. You're not listening to me. Trust me. This is good. You ready? No, this is what we need.
What?
You know what we need? The wrestling realm is styling and profiling all over the internet wrestling community. Bro, wait.
No.
Bro, this is... I don't care. You can leave all you want, bro. Listen. Diamonds are forever! Woo! And so is the wrestling realm. Woo! The limousine riding, jet flying, roll-ups whirling, diamond ring wearing.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so by now, you're still watching, click the button below, hit subscribe. You can get way more crazy content from my brother and I. We won't have nothing better to do. So, we got R-Truth recently lost his 24/7 championship. Lost it to somebody in corporate. Man, you imagine working for the WWE and you be the guy who pins R-Truth? You etch your name in history. He's the guy who pinned R-Truth, and now you are 24/7 champion. Of course he would get it back, but hey, anytime, any day. I think the title, it would be really cool if it was in the midst of all this invasion. You got NXT trying to hold down two things, TakeOver and Survivor Series, so why not throw the championship in there, see if R-Truth loses it to a member on NXT or a member on Smackdown. Moving on, AEW Dynamite. We saw in the opening contest, we saw Ray Phoenix defeat Nick Jackson. So it was first time having a one-on-one match for Nick in years, I believe he said. And unfortunately, he came up short. But it was definitely an incredible opening contest. Then we move on. Private Party would take on two members of the Inner Circle, Santana and Ortiz. This match was dedicated to the late Matt Travis, a gentleman who unfortunately was killed in a motorcycle accident a few weeks ago up in New York City. Both of these tag teams were close friends with him, so they dedicated this match to him. Unfortunately, Matt Travis, who's he was a former House of Glory wrestler, and unfortunately his life was cut short. But a lot of people, I never got a chance to meet him or work with him, but I've heard great things about him, and you see the love that's being poured. Shout out to my girl Ariella Nix. Definitely want to offer her prayers of condolence, and everybody else affected by this. But she's somebody who I'm really good friends with, so I definitely want to offer my condolences to her publicly. But shout out to Private Party getting a win, as they look to make their way into the top echelons of the tag team division. Currently not ranked as a top 5 tag team, but this right here definitely should put them up there as they look to get closer to the tag team championships. And then also on oh shoot, I ain't putting no more pictures. Okay, well guess what? Let's talk about it. Also on AEW, we saw Chris Jericho come out there, the AEW Le Champion. He came out there to discuss his plans for next week, AEW Chicago on Thanksgiving Eve. Boy, does that give you some memories. I always talk about Survivor Series. But next week we're going to have the food cooking while wrestling's on. But Jericho said he's playing the party. And then all of a sudden Scorpio Sky comes out. And then he psyched Jericho into giving him a title match. Because he kept saying he didn't want a title match. He didn't deserve a title match. Even Christopher Daniels and Chris Arians said, he don't want that because Jericho's going to go crazy. And guess what? He's got a title match next week for the AEW Championship. It's going to be Scorpio Sky, the first man to pin Chris Jericho in AEW versus Le Champion. Can Scorpio Sky win the championship? Only time will tell, folks. In the main event, Dean Ambrose, excuse me, why did I just say that? Jon Moxley was victorious over Darby Allin, the man who said he would challenge Moxley when Moxley said nobody wanted me. Excuse me. Now, I thought perhaps, I said, you know what, this would be something good to save maybe for a pay-per-view, but who knows? I'm not sure when the next All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view is. Somebody let me know. Maybe they announced it, maybe I missed it, or maybe they just didn't announce it. But, it was a decent show this week, but let's be real, NXT just tore the house down. Bottom line, there's no other way to look at it. They went out there and they did their thing, man. It was just an incredible show. So, what's time for now, folks? It's time to go around the net. Round the Net brought to you by B Waters Productions, where you can get, if you're having a wedding, you're having a birthday party, or if you're having, you just want to take pictures. Contact B Waters Productions, or maybe you want your event filmed. Just contact B Waters Productions. Go on Instagram. Instagram.com/B Waters Productions or www.BrianHWaters. So, around the net, we go to Twitter first. So, CM Punk, he talked about, he was tweeting about a lot to catch up on in wrestling and said that no one is safe. So, the owner of All Elite Wrestling, the president, said no one is safe. Sounds like a plane full of wrestlers in Saudi Arabia. Now, Tony Khan, everybody knows, is a wrestling fan. He wanted to get CM Punk over to AEW, but he came up short. So maybe he's feeling a certain type of way that Punk is working with Fox, which does what? Cover the WWE. Well, he put no one is safe. Yes, I'm only playing. But then Randy Orton would chime in, who still has me blocked on Twitter, by the way. But hey, I got multiple accounts. And he said, what's the whole thing about glass houses and stones? And he shared an article about Jaguars owner, Tony Khan's dad, who's being investigated for corruption. And, of course, Tony Khan would clap back. I thought you only tagged me in your posts when you were grasping for leverage. The article is over a year old. Plus, it's about baseless claims made about my dad years ago. That's the best you can do? Nothing. Meanwhile, in the time since that was written, you used the N-word on Twitch. So Tony Khan's not backing down. You know? Wow. It's fact. Randy said it. I'm not getting into that. You know, I was, you know, I'm not, then it was going to sound like I'm defending Randy Orton, and I'm not like a Randy Orton guy. I like him. I think he's one of the greatest WWE superstars in all time, but it's not like he's like, you know, whatever. But then Charlotte Flair would just simply drop an emoji with an eye roll, which will lead to Brandy Rose dropping a clown emoji in response to Charlotte Flair. And I just look at this and I say, can you imagine if this was during the Attitude Era? I mean, I can't help it. You just think about it. The Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars. What would Hogan have said to Shawn on Twitter? Brett and Shawn. I mean, man, but you know, this is cool. So, moving on. Chasing Glory podcast featured Mia Yim. She it's definitely a great listen. Now, I want to encourage everybody to listen to it. You really get a chance to learn a lot, and you see how it was the WWE Universe that put Mia Yim in the position where she was. You don't believe me? What am I talking about? Go back to the Mae Young Classic after the match, and then there was something else that happened on. The crowd was restless, and the please sign Mia chance. Now, I like how WWE edited it, because if I'm not mistaken, I was under the impression that it was after she had lost, but she talks about what was really going on during that. So make sure you check that out. It was a great podcast. You know, and you know, Mia Yim is one of my favorite people in the business, so I definitely had to listen. Moving on, Alicia Fox. She talked about, you know, she came clean on Instagram and talked about her recovery from alcoholism. So, you know, courage. Being able to go on social media, being able to talk about this. And, you know, a place where she could easily get ridiculed, but, you know, she's saying that she wants to help people. So, you know, definitely congratulations on her part, you know, her being sober. It's not easy, so I'm definitely happy to see this. So, you may have heard, Jim Cornette is no longer with the NWA. Why might you ask? Well, his mouth got him in trouble again. Corny was on the broadcast during a championship match, or maybe it was just the main event, between Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch. And he was trying to display and trying to do what he does, and that's being able to use his words to paint a picture. And he said, Trevor Murdoch, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It was wrong, but I'm going to repeat what he said. He said Trevor Murdoch is so tough pretty much that he could tie a strap up some fried chicken and ride through Ethiopia. So what he was trying to allude was that people of African descent love fried chicken and will do anything to get their fried chicken. And if a white man comes through strapped up in a place that he's perceiving as poor and people just fighting for scraps of food, that if they see a white man with fried chicken, they will just jump all on top of him. But Trevor Murdoch can handle it because he's that tough. Yeah, not the best choice of words. So the NWA removed the show. They pulled it down. They put it back up after they edited that out. And some fan said you should be a guest on WWE Backstage, being interviewed by Renee Young, Booker T, Paige, and the best in the world, CM Punk. Paige says, nah, we're good. Renee Young said, LOL, hard and over here, bud. So I think Cornette will get this slap on the hand. I think we'll see him back in the NWA or somewhere, Ring of Honor, hell, AEW. We'll see him. You know, he just runs his mouth. You know, that's unfortunately what he does. There was a audio out there where he said he told that N-word, XYZ. I know he's gone. Him and Vince Russo can't stand each other. That he's cut a promo on him, and then he's mocked him for being a Christian. So he really needs a chill pill. Bottom line. But moving on. So I'm excited to talk about this. Cameron, aka or now known as Ariane Andrew, has indicated that she's not done wrestling. Now, full disclosure, my favorite of all time, based on looks, clearly. But she has indicated she's not done wrestling. Says, she's got some more that she wants to give. Now, she's been working, she's an artist, she has a talk show, but she said she's not done with the ring. And remember, she got released, and she believes, a lot of people believe, that was due to publicly having Ryback's back on Twitter. And then all of a sudden she got the call. So unfortunately she did that. And it came at a time when she wasn't really being used. Clearly everybody knew Naomi was the star. But Naomi was getting that push as a single star. And at one point you had her and Cameron going back and forth. So I would like to see her come back. I would like to see her team with Naomi again. Maybe not in a tag team, but maybe in a managerial, an ally role. Kind of like what Sami Zayn is doing. So, we'll see. Also, the New Day have announced that they have a new podcast coming out. It's called The New Day Feel the Power. So, WWE is obviously getting into the podcast business. And the New Day will be one of them people who have their own podcast. So, you have Corey Gray's podcast. You have the New Day. They also have the TV show or the internet show called The Bump, which is, people sitting there. This past week, first time I watched it, it was me and him was on there talking about, getting ready for the upcoming War Games. But you also had Heavy Machinery on there and Mandy Rose, surprise Otis. So, yeah, WWE, they recognize this is what people do. We sit on the internet, we watch shows, people watch the Wrealm, watch other shows. So they said, hey, we're going to do the same thing. I kind of wish they stay back. I got enough content, man. So, but ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you log on to the Facebook group page, The Wrestling Realm. Join it, and if I miss it, find me on Facebook and say, hey, I'm trying to get in the group. But make sure you join the page. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with all your friends. But that's going to wrap it up. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you get notified every time the Wrestling Realm posts new content.